Hey guys, hope you're having a good day. So today we're going to take a look at this Weedeater curve shaft GTI 15 string trimmer. So this is kind of a little brother of that GTI 19 that we did in a video a while ago. And this is also part of that estate cleanout set of equipment that I got that we're working our way through. So I had not planned to do a video on this one, but I was talking to one of you guys in the comments section. You heard that I had this one as well and wanted to see a video on it, so here we are. So we're going to see if we can't get this one going again. We'll start with a quick walk around and then we'll get into it. Okay, so since we're down here already, let's take a look at the head, make sure we're not missing anything crazy. Looks like we got everything, debris guard, knife edge, just a lot of crap wrapped around there. We'll have to cut off probably. I think we're okay there. Let's check the fuel tank. Little wet but empty. So I'm sure we're going to have to clean that out with some carb spray or something. I'm sure that's bad gas. Let's flip around to the fuel line. I think there's only one on this, if I remember right. Yep. And that's broken. So we'll have to deal with that too. So I think we're going to start off. I'm going to pull the plug. We'll throw some fuel mix in there and see if it'll pop off. That'll kind of rule out if we have a compression or an ignition problem. So let's keep going. Okay, let's flip this on its side here quick. I'm probably gonna have to spray this off before taking it inside. It's got a lot of cobwebs and dirt on it. Here we go. I haven't seen this spark plug before. Gator 77302. It's a new one. Looks about what I would expect. So let's dump some fuel in here. It's probably too much. Okay. All right, so on off switch, and we are off choke. Let's see what we got. Awesome. Okay, so it may not look it, but I did hose this off quick. Just knock a bunch of the loose dirt off of there. So let's clean the tank before we head inside. It looks pretty syrupy in there, and I got a jar to kind of show you guys what it looks like. There's a filter in there. I just saw it move around. Shake it up. It's leaking out of the line. Oh God. Something red just fell out. Okay. Look at that. So probably old gas. Don't see any water in it. Okay, let's move inside. Okay guys, we're pulled inside here. You're probably gonna hear my AC run in the background because it's like 97 degrees outside. So not willing to turn that off, but I don't know if I mentioned it before. This thing's like less than 4 feet long. This bench is probably somewhere around 5.5 feet long. Fits entirely on the bench. Thought that was pretty interesting. It's actually a really, really small unit, but it looks like we lost the fuel line and we'll need to pull this carburetor off, see what we need to do there, and we will have to route a new fuel line and probably get a new fuel filter on there. So let's get that old one out of there first and go from there. See if I can use the grabbers here. I got it. Hopefully I got it here. Yeah, look at that guy. That's big. See if the fuel line's still in there. Maybe a little bit in that corner back in there. Yeah. Come on. Okay. That's kind of all I see in there. So we'll roll with that. See if we can't poke the bottom little hole through. If I can see it. If I can get it with this guy. Yeah, there we go. Alright. Just that little nub that was stuck in the bottom of the tank. Okay, so carburetor. Let's get this filter cover off here. My guess is the air filter, if it's still there, is going to turn to dust here. They normally do after they've been sitting for a while. It's not even there. Oh no, there it is. It's stuck to the carburetor plate. Yeah, falling apart. Looks like Phillips head screws. I don't think those are factory. Usually it's a hex head. Yeah, well, they're plastitites. Maybe they had Phillips there in the older ones, I don't know. Expected to see a hex head kind of like that one. See where the throttle's at. There's only one hole. Trying not to tear the gasket here. It's kind of a pin that's holding it. Come on off of there. Okay. More bad fuel slime on the gasket. I got a Walbro, so it's original carb, looks like. Let's see if we can't get this gasket off of here, because we're going to have to open this up, most likely. Okay. Walbro. So this is going to come in handy later. Walbro WA207A. So we'll need that information for getting a kit. But let me reposition you and we'll start opening this thing up. Okay, here we go. And I forgot to mention, this is what fell out of the tank. I don't know what it is. This looks like a plug or something. Don't know. But let's open this thing up. Start with the pump inside. This will likely need to be cleared out. Some carb spray, since we've been seeing bad gas everywhere. Yeah. So that needs sprayed out. But what I'm after is the flaps. Right here. And they are stiff. And that one's kind of off the machine surface, which will affect the way it pumps. And so will it being stiff like that and not returning back down, sealing. So it looks like we'll probably need a pumping diaphragm. Put it back together, not to put any more dirt in it. And this is probably going to be hard as a rock. This is the metering diaphragm side. Okay. Hard as a rock. So we're going to need that too. I'll have to check my stash to see if I have a kit. If not, I might have to order one. Yeah, you can hear it. It's supposed to be nice and soft for it to work right. So that's bad. And then you kind of want to check the needle rocker arm for damage. That looks okay. Just kind of discolored. And the needle does move. Okay, so I got to look up that Walbro WA207A, get a kit, if I don't already have one, and I'll bring you back. Okay, jumping back on this thing, I was able to scrounge up some parts from what I had laying around. We got some fuel line, fuel filter, and then gasket diaphragms. So this is kind of a hodgepodge from different partial kits that I had laying around. I kind of pull out the stuff I need from those, and there ends up being leftover parts. So that is luckily what we have here. But if you needed to buy one, it would be either D20 WAT or K20 WAT. And that's just from looking it up on the Walbro website. So we have essentially the same thing as a D20 WAT here that we'll use. I made sure everything matched up. The only thing we need to do yet is pull these gaskets off, run outside quick, spray this out, and get to putting this back together. I think I'm going to pull out the needle because I found it's easier just to pull it out so you're not swelling the rubber tip of the needle with carb spray. And I'll also reset the rocker arm here with the gauge that we have here. So let's run outside quick. I'll get these pulled off, and we'll keep moving. You can see all the old stuff coming out of it still. So for those interested in seeing the screen, I do have a new one of those. So I found it's easier just to replace it if you have one. Because sometimes you clean them out and they clog up again. It's also better to remove it to clean out underneath. Rocker arm. There's a spring in here. Don't lose your spring. If I can get it out. There it goes. And we'll get the needle out, take a look at that. So like I was saying, I don't necessarily like to spray the carb out anymore with the needle still in there, because it can tend to swell up the rubber tip on this. So what I typically do is I just take a clean rag and kind of twist it in there to remove some of that dirt. You see the dirt came off of there. So that'll help prevent it getting stuck open if there's a chunk or something in there. But should be good to go there. It's not deformed or anything. Okay, now we're going to go outside. Okay, here we go. It's clear. Okay, that'll do it, I think. Okay, back inside to throw this thing back together. Before I do that, I wanted to show you guys the old screen. I did spray it out outside off camera just to kind of show what I was talking about earlier. You can't see through this at all. So that doesn't necessarily mean that fuel mix isn't going to go through it, but I've had instances already that you go through cleaning this with some carb spray and you test the rocker arm on the bottom, allow fuel to kind of flow through it. It flows through it, and then you have running issues after the fact, after you get everything back together, where it's kind of starved for fuel. So if I have a new one, I tend to just replace it, because you can kind of tell how easy you can see through that one. We're not going to have any blockages with that. So since it's here, we're going to throw that in there, and the way I do that is kind of put that on top there, find a drill bit that's the right diameter, kind of push it down into the hole. Just like that. So new screen. And we got to put the rocker arm back together. I usually put the spring in first and the needle that we just cleaned up. Kind of place that where that needs to go. Hold the rocker and kind of rotate it in underneath while depressing the spring. Just like that. So, gotta find that screw. There it was, underneath the diaphragm. Okay, so that's moving fine, and we need to check the adjustment here. This is the tool for that, so WA. We're going to just put it across here and make sure that the arm is not being depressed by the tool and there's not too big of a gap, and you can kind of see we're right there, so I'm going to leave that alone. So, metering diaphragm side, the gasket goes first, then the diaphragm. So I don't know if it matters this way or the other way, but I had it on like this, and I saw the boss on the carburetor is kind of shaped like the gasket there. So I figured might as well just have that the right way around. I'm not sure it actually matters on this one. Diaphragm. Then that guy. Okay, pumping side. So the pumping diaphragm always goes against the machine surface on this one, and you kind of got to match it up to where your flaps are lined up. You can put this on backwards, and I think we're good right there. And then we got the gasket on top of that. Okay, that is the carb. Let me move you and we'll do the line in the tank and the fuel filter. Okay, fuel line, fuel filter. This one takes the really skinny, thin line, and there's only one that goes in the port here. There's no return on this one. And for a fuel filter, let's grab this generic one. It'll work just as good as this one. This one is size-wise just different because of the plastic covering on it and the OD, but the filter element inside seems to be the same as this one, so we should be good there. As far as routing this up, there's one hole in the very bottom here, so I'm going to have to cut a decent sliver off of this so we can push it up in enough that we can grab it with some needle nose pliers through the top, and I'll probably have to get my long reach ones in there if I can't get it up in there just by forcing it long enough to get normal pliers on it. So let's cut a long piece off of here. And we'll hope that doesn't break as we're pulling it through. Okay. Get started. If we can grab it. Yeah. All right. Let's push this filter on. Dunk it in there, and then we'll get the carb on so we can get a right length right here. Okay, all the way on the barb there. Put that in there with enough length that it's laying on the bottom of the tank, which is good there. Probably can pull some through. Yeah, just right there. Just so it's laying flat on the bottom of the tank, has enough loop in there so it can curve and lay flat. We got our gasket here, and there's really no direction to this, but if there's already impressions on it, like this is the trimmer side, you can see the marking on it, and this is the carb side. I usually just follow that, just so it seals like it was before. Look up our throttle. And make sure we line up our little wave washer there for our choke lever. It's got a shouldered washer on it as well. Our gasket shifted. All right, I think we're in. Not bound up on the choke lever. It's moving good. And then the fuel line. Try to move this so you guys can see. So we just got to cut enough to go on that barb, and I'll probably have to use needle nose. Slide it on. If I wanted to, I guess I could pull these screws out to make it easier to slide onto the barb, but it should be okay. Might be able to get it on by hand too. Okay, I think we're on far enough. Pick this up and show you. You probably couldn't see anything. I think we could probably stand to be a little shorter on that line so it's not hanging out so far, but I think we're all right. So we have to figure out an air filter since this one disintegrated. Let me check my stash here. Well, we got this one, which I think if we cut it just right, will fit in there. Get some scissors. It's kind of a semicircle. And we got extra length, so we can cut it again. Alright, I think that'll work just fine. I think that was from like a later model Poulan 32cc air filter pack that I got, but that'll do. Fuel cap. And I think that wraps up this end of it. Let's turn this around. We'll cut that debris off the head and see if we need to do anything as far as line goes. Let's cut this off of here. Looks like parts of a tarp and weed stalks. Almost looks like hay. All right. That's better. We still got some in there. That looks like string. All right. That's off of there. Now, how do we open this head up? Squeeze. There we go. Is it a bump feed? Let's see if it works without messing with it first. Oh, it does. All right. That's a short swath. Wonder if the cutting path is on the advertised on the back of this. 15 inches, so that's smaller. Now let's open it up anyway, see what's in there. Oh yeah, there's a lot of line. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. Yeah, I'm not gonna mess with that. It's almost full. Make sure it's still working after we messed with it. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, say we're ready to head outside. Okay, time to give this thing a shot. We got to get some fuel in here yet, which I got my can out for. It's 40 to 1. And for adjustments, we only have a low speed adjustment. So the high is apparently fixed on this carburetor. So we kind of got to bounce between the idle speed and the low speed adjustment until we get a good throttle response and a good high speed. So let's get some fuel in here, pull it over, see what we got. Oh, and this is a clutchless unit. So as I'm pulling this over, you should see the head moving. That's how you tell if there's no clutch, or if there is a clutch in here, it wouldn't move as you're pulling this over. So, on switch, hit full choke. Come on. The recoil needs some attention. Let's try with the trigger the whole way down. Well, that did it. Looks like we got some adjusting to do here. Looks like the idle speed was the whole way out. Well, let's reset the screw to 1.5 out, see where it was at. That's half, 1, and it was already at 1.5. Let's put that back. Maybe I put the idle in too far. Let's put that back out. Try again. See if it restarts quick. Well, awesome. It starts and runs, restarted fine, and I think I'm going to have to probably tweak this low speed adjustment over time as I continue to run and test this a little bit further. I think we had a kind of a hesitation at trigger, so that might come back out of it with some more tweaking, or maybe just from having to run it, because I have no idea how long this thing sat, but it does smell like kind of a wet basement when it's running. But I think we're good. Okay, well, we can't ignore that recoil, can we? So much like the GTI 19, I got to take this front housing off, and to do that we got to pull the shaft out. So there's two hex key headed bolts here. You got to take this front handle vibration isolator out, kind of tilt that back, and then pull that housing out to get at the recoil. My guess is we probably just have to clean it. So let's see what's underneath there. So that shaft should slide out now. Yeah. And if you didn't know, that's how trimmers drive the head from up here at the power head. It's a square head, flexible shaft inside that shaft tube. Let's take this off first. And that's a through bolt, I think, if I remember right, yeah. So that's all we got to do there. And then there should be 6 bolts or screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah. And since there's no clutch on this one, this should be easier to get to the recoil, because usually the clutch is farther forward than the recoil, and you got to remove the clutch and the drum to get to the recoil. But like I said, on clutchless ones you don't need to do that. It should just be right underneath this cup here. I'll have to remember their positions, because these ones are kind of the trilobular screws, and the bottom 2 were like plastic, going into plastic screws. Yep, here we go. Okay. Oh, that pawl was frozen, so we'll have to lubricate that. That's what engages with the recoil gear here to start it. So these need to be free to move correctly. See, that one's hanging up. Now it's free. It was hanging up out here. That's bad. It needs to snap back like that, just like that one. All right, so that's good. It looks like someone's already been in here, because the Phillips head is somewhat stripped out, if you guys can see that. So that's what retains that recoil. Little metal tab. So it looks like it's not a knot in the end of the rope here. It's kind of wrapped around that screw and then cinched down. So we should be able to pull it the whole way out and kind of undo that screw, let the rope out so we can pull the recoil off of there without the spring getting everywhere. So let's see if that's true. Come on. You guys probably can't see anything. I gotta be in your way. Okay. So this should pull through. Yeah, no knot. But that's frayed. So I guess we're putting a rope in this one. Okay. All right. So I don't see anything crazy in there. That would gum this up. So I think I'm just gonna put some maybe blaster on here, the lubrication stuff. This stuff. Or WD-40 would work. It's kind of sticky right there. So that should loosen that up. Yeah, it was sticky. Looks like the spring was kind of sticking to itself. It kind of let loose once I lubricated it. Kind of get the plastic boss here too. Not much coming off of that. All right, this guy. So all that gunk should come off. Yeah. We should move a little bit better. Alright, so we got to find a rope. This actually isn't that long, maybe 3 feet, because I don't want that breaking off on me or someone else. Now let's see if I got a rope that size. I don't know, that might be too thick. See about this one. I'll have to research what this is, size this is, if you guys need it. It's a little small. And the other one's kind of big, so we're just going to use the smaller one. I think this is size 4, which is like 3 millimeter diameter. So we're just going to match it up, add a couple inches on the end. I'm going to have to find my lighter. Okay, so we're just melting the ends so it doesn't fray anymore. And this one's kind of interesting because there's like a ramp, then it goes up that hole in there and then kind of wraps around. And it doesn't look like it needs to have a knot on it. And we're just going to wind it up until it stops and back it off. Line up the hole with the ferrule in the housing here and kind of push that through. Actually, before we do that, let's put the handle on it so it doesn't get sucked in. So sometimes when you wind them up and there's nothing on the end to stop it from going in the housing, it'll do that. Ask me how I know. Okay, that's good. We'll cut some more off of that if we need to, but I don't think we will, since it's kind of a little bit of a smaller diameter. So back to lining this up. Okay, so just stop there. If you guys can see, the holes over here, we need to be up that way, so I'm just going to let it off one turn and then try to feed this through this hole here, up through that while I'm holding it. Where's my pick? Oh, almost had it poked through. I wonder if I can stick a screwdriver in that hole there. Give me a second here. Let me try to find one that fits. Okay, Torx will hold it. So there's kind of like a provision right there. You can see that right here. It's like a V, and it lines up conveniently on the opposite side where we need to route that in. So looks like they helped us out. So we'll put that in there while we're routing this through. Hoping it just goes up and in. There we go. So all this did was kind of loop around here and wedge in to the housing, and then it was kind of cinched down with that washer and screw. Okay. That's how I got it set up. Hold on, you can't see. So this is the screw that went in there. So that kind of makes me nervous because it's not a knot, but if that's the way it's supposed to be, that's what we got. Put this recoil down in. Let's get this retainer back on before it pops out on us. Get a bigger one. Okay, I'd say we're back in business. Like I said, I'm kind of worried about that with it not being a knot, but even if there was a knot in there, I don't think it would fit around these paws. I think it would interfere. So, we'll give it a shot. If it comes out, I know how to fix it. Okay, then our 6 screws, and then the handle bolt, and then the shaft. Before we get too far, let's make sure it pulls it over, off. Yeah, and that returns good now. That is good. Now I got to get the shaft back in there, and first I need to see, kind of helps to see where the square drive is, and you can kind of position it so that's kind of like a diamond shape, so the point's sticking straight up to the handle. So keep that in mind when we take a look at this, which is already oriented that way. So we got one of the points straight up, so they should slide straight in, no issues. Famous last words. There it is. Yep. All right. And that is it. Okay guys, well I'd say that wraps this one here. It's up and running again, it's fully functional, starts, runs, restarts, bump feed works, cuts weeds. So we pretty much had to do everything on this one. Air filter, fuel lines, fuel filter, carburetor, diaphragms and cleaning, tank cleaning, recoil rope, lubricate the recoil, and we took a look at the bump feed, but we didn't have to do anything on that one, surprisingly. So we're fully functional again. So hopefully what we covered helped somebody out, or you guys found this entertaining. Thanks for joining me on this one, and I'll catch you on the next one.